We're now going to focus on the new world of AV, which has become increasingly complex in the past few years. And we're going to do this with the help from a panel of experts. So I'd like to ask you all just to introduce yourselves, please.
Hi there, I'm Nicola Westwood and I'm Head of AV Planning at
I'm Gayle Noah, I'm the Media Director at L'Oreal.
I'm Vicky Fox, I'm Chief Planning Officer at OMG UK.
AV has become more and more complex. We've now got a kind of acronym soup and there seems to be a new one every few weeks. But I'm really interested in your perspectives of how you see this new landscape and kind of how you're thinking about it. Nikki, what are you seeing?
And my team know how much I hate an acronym as well, but we really tried to simplify it and we talk in one AV. So essentially we have a number of principles which help us to select the AV channels that we're going to use on our AV plans. And the first of these principles, and sort of the non-negotiable that we see, is that it's fit for TV or broadcast quality content. And then we have a number of others which we can sort of select from to help navigate this huge choice and plethora of AV channels. So the majority of it, which will be viewed on a big screen, which the majority of broadcast content does now tend to be viewed on a big screen. It has a lighter ad load that we run in non-skippable environments. So that's our one AV proposition to help simplify and help navigate and select the AV channels that we will use in our AV plans.
And how does that fit with the client's view on this? How do you see it?
I think it's become really complex for marketeers. They've got a lot of different platforms to try and get their heads around. And so what we've tried to do is simplify it as well. So we've created a definition within L'Oreal called digital TV. And within that, again, it's very much about TV-like content in unskippable environments. And it needs to be regardless of delivery platform and also device. So whether you're watching ITVX or on Netflix, if you're watching it on a mobile, it still counts. The only exception to that is YouTube, where actually in the UK, you've got about half of the impressions are going on a connected TV device. So actually, we count that side of it as digital TV as well.
Vicky, what's the view?
I mean, it's interesting, we talked about acronym soup, and not everyone is even keeping to the same acronyms, and the way you think about channels isn't always consistent. So that, and then you get channels changing their acronyms. So, SVOD moving into an AVOD space. Subsets like BVOD is a subset of AVOD. And whether or not we count video sharing as an AVOD platform or as a social platform. So language and definitions are really important to help guide us. So, and absolutely right, to help simplify that. I sort of lay it out for clients from a broadcast linear space all the way through to social video and pull apart the device, because the device is important, absolutely what you said, where that viewing happens, because that helps shape the plan for the client, really.
Which makes me think, is consistency and kind of comparability a thing then? Is it something you think about? Is it possible? Or is it all just too different now?
Great question. I think you have to understand what you're working with, and that's with the definitions, because the complexity lies with, impression is not an impact, they are different. An impression is also not a view, and that's a different language. And it's okay to put a plan together that has apples and pears, but you have to understand what the role of each of them is, because historically we've been charged media planners having to put a plan together that has television, radio and out of home, and they don't all mean the same, and they're not the same. It doesn't mean we don't think about the total holistic reach and frequency of that delivery. And I think the same thing, we have to think about those tactics when we put a plan together across AV, or we've sort of described it as unified video, which does include kind of maybe a bit more stretchy definition of AV. Just because they're not apples and apples doesn't mean they don't sit on the same plan. It's understanding the role for each of them within that plan. So
it's one AV, but it's also lots of AVs, isn't it, in there?
Yeah. And AV is now evolving, and it's not, I think AV used to do a very defined job of driving reach and awareness and did a very good job, and then digital maybe did more of a performance or a conversion job, but actually those two worlds are really coming together a lot more now, and it's harder to compare and sort of work on a level playing field. The broadcasters are really looking at what they do a great job of reach and awareness, actually delivers in conversions, and how that can be measured. So the traditional AV and the sort of digital AV worlds are really colliding.
They are to a degree, but I wouldn't include TikTok in that. I wouldn't include Meta in that. So I think it's very much about that TV-like consumption. And I think, again, we also start to look at attention metrics. We start to look at the quality of the view and the length of the view and the viewability. So I think when we start to bring all of those things in together, I wouldn't have some of those social sharing video platforms in there either.
But even in this brief discussion, we've been layering in different metrics in there. We've got reach and frequency, but we're looking at attention, we're looking at quality, we're looking at becoming a much more multi-layered thing.
I think for an advertiser, I think this is one of the reasons we are really vocal about Origin, is to get that total reach and frequency measurement across all of the different platforms so that we can make informed choices. But it is just one metric. So we will also look at the performance, the return on investment. We will look at even sustainability impact. So we will look at all of these different things before we make our business choices and where we invest.
Vicky, what are you thinking about in terms of metrics then? Have you got a way of looking at it that boils it down a bit?
Boiling down is probably oversimplifying it. I think it's understanding the creative, it's understanding the task and the role, and making sure that everything you do is fit for purpose and fit for that environment. We're going to see a sort of a flip where it's a generational change. If you look at viewing from the 10-year age gaps all the way through. The older age demographic, they will lead with a linear, and you have to sort of build a plan that reflects that. The younger age groups, their lead channel and their reach building channels are more social. So you have to make sure that campaign delivers for that. It's making and building campaigns that are fit for the audiences. And it's really interesting you touched on attention. We've just released our attention panel. So we didn't do a study, we actually built a whole panel in the UK, and we're watching them watching television, which is really exciting, seeing people watch television in the wild and understanding their relationship with adverts, with content. And it's really going to help us make some of those informed choices about second lengths and when and where to place certain second lengths and how to get the most out of your AV investment. So exciting things happening, but it is just another metric. There is no one metric. And we look at lots of different complementary sets of data. I think that's important. Sounds
like planning AV has got a load more complicated than it used to be.
Certainly has.
What are you thinking about as kind of planners as you're getting your campaigns ready?
Well, I think the first thing to notice is the fact that you've got a couple of planning people on the sofas today, and that wasn't a role that necessarily existed a few years ago. It was sort of bundled together. You're a planner buyer, and you just had, but to help navigate that complexity, agencies have had to structure themselves and invest in the kind of talent that can focus in on the planning challenges, because there are so many and it is so complex, and dealing with lots of different data sets, it's like a tapestry of understanding of audiences, and you're bringing together panel data with ad server data and trying to make sense of that. And one size won't fit all, but it is to the skill of the planner to help the clients navigate and make those right decisions. But we're supported by MMM and sort of robust ongoing measurement as well.
It sounds like planning of AV has got a lot more complicated. Nicola, what are some of the new skills, new challenges your team are bringing to this?
We're using our proprietary tools to help support in helping how we get these, how we make these decisions. And that's all underpinned by data, the likes of the Barb data, which we can directly upload into our planning tools to help show, which will where can we maximise reach and how can we do that most cost effectively. But of course, the proprietary tools that we work with, they're only as good as the people that are using it. So we have to bring our expertise. We have to really understand the data. We have to get under the skin of it, because we can't just take it at face value. We have to understand the plan that our tool is recommending. Is that deliverable? Does that truly reflect the audience that are going to be watching, and will it deliver what we need it to deliver against the KPI for the client?
I think there's an interesting challenge for agencies coming, especially as the landscape gets more complex. The divide between the skill set of a TV buyer versus what goes through a DSP, for example, now with Amazon Prime Netflix is coming, you've got even YouTube, and it used to be in a programmatic team. So actually, how do those lines blur? How do you upskill TV buyers, old TV buyers for the future, and how to bring it all together? I think that is going to be a challenge for the agencies.
In terms of measurement then, I mean, in media we do lots of things. We do the planning of the campaign, we execute it, but we also then get to the reporting, the measurement, the really understanding the kind of effectiveness. What are some of the new challenges you've kind of met there, do you think, in terms of understanding the effect these campaigns have had?
I think we've all kind of touched on the fact that you're dealing with metrics that don't align. So it's bringing those all into one place, and everybody, around the industry sort of got the methodologies for understanding that. But for us, it's absolutely having that laser focus on the outcomes, because metrics are media metrics, and they're set for a reason. But you have to think about what is the outcome of the campaign. How do my audience feel? What are they going to do? And so you have to sort of keep that aligned into your plan, because the metrics are only as good as kind of the outcomes that you can drive with them.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's very different uses of TV and digital TV, depending on what you're trying to do, what's the job to be done. So I think, again, we're focused on business outcomes. So I'll have a very different approach for, let's call it a mascara versus a fragrance at Christmas. So there'll be very different jobs to be done. And I think, again, it's how do we give the right results and the right reach and frequency numbers to the brand teams, to the planners, so that they can make the right decisions.
And one of the greatest challenges is there isn't one unified solution to bring this all together so that we can accurately measure deduplicated reach and frequency. Obviously, we have Barb data powering C-Flight, which is linear TV, and BVOD, which is fabulous because it's still a huge chunk of the AV plans that we're running. But, you have Project Origin, which will be linear TV and Meta and YouTube, but from a different data source. You also have XMR data, which is reading, data from the TV set, which is quite bespoke to the companies which are sharing it. So there isn't one solution which accurately and holistically measures the whole ecosystem of AV that, we're working in.
And with that future hat on, what's on your agenda at the moment? What are some of the top things rising in your inbox in terms of managing this future of AV?
If I had a wish list.
Yeah, go on. What's your wish list?
Top of my wish list for Christmas is BVOD measurement. I'd love to measure BVOD to the same level that we measure linear, and I'd love to measure ads to the same level that we measure programmes. That would be on the dream, because, we've got some skilled AV professionals in the room. The granularity of what you can do with a linear schedule and understanding the nuance of how people move across programmes, which breaks even in the show perform better depending what's on the beeb, or all of that nuance of how the British public love television and get involved. We just don't get with BVOD, and that would be the one thing that I'd love to see. Aside
from fragrance and mascara, what's on your Christmas
I agree.
list?
I think it's the detailed level of reporting that we can get and the analysis we can get on programme access, what people are watching, what is working, where the affinities are on everything other than linear. So not just BVOD, but also the SVOD side of things, and certainly the ad tier side of those. That would be really incredible for us.
Nicola?
Increased transparency of data and scale of these SVOD players, and being able to prove that it works, being able to prove who saw our ad and how many times.
And one last question then, if you were putting yourself into Barb's shoes and thinking about, Barb's agenda looking ahead, what would you be putting on the top of that wish list?
So I don't believe that there should be a separate measurement. I would love to see everything in one place and allow advertisers to make the call on what is a view. So what is a view for me is going to be very different to a direct response advertiser, but let us make the decision. We understand the market enough. We understand what is right for our audience. So I would love all of the measurement in one place.
Other thoughts? If you were setting Barb's agenda, what would you be putting on there?
I've been encouraged by, the recent developments with the SVOD and making sure that we hold some of that measurement to the same standard. But I'd like us to see and go further with that.
Yeah, so it's great that we have Netflix, Amazon Prime Video. They're in our planning tools now. So it'd be wonderful if the next step was that these were part of C-Flight as well, so that we could measure all of that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for all of your input. Really, really appreciate your time today, and thank you for taking part in this.